Welcome back to Fishing Myths and Truths. In this episode, we cast into the science behind bait color, moon phases, and barometric pressure. Do they matter, or are they just superstition? Let's separate the facts from the fiction. We'll journey into the murky depths of fish behavior where things aren't always as they appear on the surface. Just like tracking down a giant Goliath tigerfish in the Congo, we need cunning, observation, and a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to reel in future episodes. Now, every angler's tackle box has that go-to lure, the one with colors so bright they could rival a tropical reef. But is there any truth to the claim that bright bait always outperforms its duller counterparts? It's easy to think that a flashy chartreuse spinnerbait will grab a fish's attention more than a natural-looking silver one. And in some cases, you'd be right. In murky water where visibility is low, those vibrant colors can indeed stand out, acting like a beacon in the gloom. But here's the thing, fish don't see the world the same way we do. While color is a factor, it's not the be-all and end-all. Fish are also highly sensitive to contrast, light penetration, and movement. Imagine you're a predator fish lurking in the depths. The water around you is a murky brown soup. Suddenly a flash of bright orange cuts through the gloom. Is it food? Is it a threat? Your instincts scream, investigate. Now picture the same scenario, but instead of a bright orange lure, it's a more subdued brown or green. It might not be as immediately eye-catching, but it blends in with the environment, mimicking the natural prey fish in that particular body of water. The key takeaway here is that contrast is crucial. A bright lure in clear water might stick out like a sore thumb, actually scaring fish away. On the other hand, in stained or muddy water, that same lure could be the key to triggering strikes. And don't underestimate the power of movement. A lure that darts and dances erratically, even if it's not the brightest in the box, can often entice a strike by triggering a fish's predatory instincts. Think about it. A wounded baitfish thrashing on the surface is a prime target for any opportunistic predator. Your lure should mimic that same erratic behavior, piquing the fish's curiosity and overriding any hesitation they might have about the color. In extremely muddy conditions where visibility is almost non-existent, factors like vibration and scent become even more critical. This is where lures with rattles or scented baits can really shine, drawing fish in from a distance. So, the next time you're choosing your bait, don't just reach for the brightest color in your tackle box. Consider the water clarity, the type of fish you're targeting, and the overall conditions. Sometimes a more subtle approach can be just as effective, if not more so. Remember, fishing is about understanding the intricate relationship between predator and prey, and that means thinking like a fish. It's not always about the flashiest presentation. Sometimes it's about blending in, triggering those primal instincts, and presenting a meal that's too good to resist. The full moon has captivated storytellers and fishermen alike for centuries. It's often associated with increased activity, strange occurrences, and of course tales of legendary catches. But is there any truth to the idea that a full moon means fantastic fishing? Well, like many things in the angling world, it's not quite so simple. The moon in all its lunar glory does indeed influence fish behavior, but not always in the way we might expect. Let's start by understanding how the moon affects the underwater world. The moon's gravitational pull is the driving force behind tides, creating those rhythmic rises and falls of water levels we're all familiar with. For certain fish species, particularly those inhabiting coastal areas and estuaries, these tidal changes dictate their movements and feeding patterns. They've evolved to take advantage of the influx of bait fish and crustaceans that are swept in and out with the tides. Now, during a full moon, the gravitational pull is at its strongest, resulting in more extreme high and low tides. This can create strong currents and stir up the bottom, making it easier for fish to ambush prey. So, it stands to reason that some fish species might become more active during a full moon, particularly those that rely on these tidal movements for their feeding routines. However, here's where the myth unravels a bit. While a full moon might trigger increased feeding in some species, it can also have the opposite effect on others. Think about it. A bright full moon illuminating the water column is like switching on a giant spotlight. For fish that rely on stealth and darkness to hunt, this can be a major deterrent. They might become more wary, stick to deeper water, or reduce their feeding activity altogether to avoid becoming an easy target for predators themselves. Take walleye, for example, a prized sport fish known for their light-sensitive eyes. They often feed more aggressively under the cover of darkness, and a full moon can actually make them less likely to strike, especially in clear water. On the other hand, some species, like snook, are known to actively feed under a full moon, using the increased light to their advantage to hunt prey. It all boils down to the specific species, their preferred habitat, and their evolutionary adaptations. The moon phase can also influence fish spawning behavior. Some species, like tarpon, are known to time their spawning runs with the lunar cycle, often congregating in large numbers around the full moon. So, while a full moon might not be the guaranteed fishing bonanza that some anglers believe it to be, it's certainly a factor worth considering when planning your next fishing trip. Pay attention to the species you're targeting, their known feeding habits, and the specific conditions of your chosen fishing spot. And remember, sometimes the best fishing happens when we least expect it. Ah, the pre-storm frenzy. The wind picks up, the sky darkens, and suddenly the water seems to come alive with activity. It's a phenomenon that has both excited and baffled anglers for generations. But is there any scientific basis behind the belief that fish bite more before a storm? The answer, in short, is a resounding yes, with a few caveats, of course. You see, fish are incredibly sensitive to changes in their environment, particularly fluctuations in barometric pressure. Barometric pressure, in essence, is the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on the Earth. When a storm approaches, the barometric pressure drops, signaling a change in weather patterns. Fish, with their specialized sensory organs, can detect these subtle shifts in pressure long before we humans even notice a change in the wind. And for many species, a drop in barometric pressure triggers a feeding frenzy. Think about it from a fish's perspective. An approaching storm often means rougher water, increased turbidity, and a potential disruption to their usual feeding grounds. It's in their best interest to stock up on energy reserves while they still can. As the pressure drops, it affects the swim bladder of many fish species, an internal gas-filled organ that helps them control their buoyancy. This change in pressure can cause discomfort, making them more likely to feed aggressively to alleviate the sensation. Furthermore, the turbulent conditions created by an approaching storm can stir up the bottom, dislodging insects, crustaceans, and other tasty morsels that fish rely on for sustenance. It's like ringing the dinner bell for the entire underwater ecosystem. Now, while a drop in barometric pressure can indeed trigger a feeding frenzy, it's not a foolproof guarantee of angling success. The timing of your fishing trip in relation to the storm's arrival is crucial. The most productive period is often in the hours leading up to the storm, when the pressure is dropping rapidly. This is when fish are most active and eager to feed. However, once the storm front passes and the pressure begins to stabilize, the bite often shuts down dramatically. The fish, having gorged themselves during the pre-storm buffet, become lethargic and less likely to expend energy chasing after your carefully presented lure. So, if you're planning to brave the elements and fish during a storm, timing is everything. Keep a close eye on the weather forecast, monitor the barometric pressure, and be prepared to hit the water when the conditions are prime. And remember, safety should always be your top priority. Storms can be unpredictable and dangerous, so never take unnecessary risks. If in doubt, wait it out and fish another day. So what did we learn today? Bright baits help, but they're not magic. Moonlight changes feeding, but not always in your favor. And storm fronts can fire up the fish, but timing is everything. If you're enjoying the series, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with a myth you want busted next. We're just getting started. Coming up in episode 3, we take on fishing line myths, catch and release debates, and the classic fish bite better in the rain story. You won't want to miss it. Until next time. Fish smart, stay curious.